Gwyneth Paltrow testifying today, called by the plaintiff, Terry Sanderson, called her to the stand. It's a civil case, so you can call the other side. That's exactly what happened today. She told her story. Welcome back to this special expanded edition of Closing Arguments. I got to introduce the guests who are with us. And we've got Caitlin Becker, senior reporter, DailyMail.com, still with us. We've got Janine Driver, body language expert, New York Times bestselling author of You Can't Lie to Me. She's in Virginia. And Dr. Robi Ludwig, nationally known psychotherapist, host of Talking Live and the Bite Size podcast. She's in New York, New York. All right, everyone, this is what I want to do. Janine, you ready? I'm going to play some testimony. Gwyneth Paltrow, you tell me what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And Dr. Robi, you as well. And Caitlin, yeah. But here we go. Here she is talking about being questioned about some risky behavior on the slopes.
3 days ago, can you believe it's been only 3 days?
No.
Me neither. So 3 days ago, Mr. Owens, in his opening, talked about risky behavior, risky skiing. And he made mention that, you know, of course, Ms. Paltrow was not skiing recklessly, not taking any kind of risky behavior because her children were there that day. Do you recall him saying that?
I think it does misstate my testimony, but...
Well, it wasn't testimony that you stated.
My argument...
Can you answer the question?
If I remember what he said?
No, just maybe do you agree with that? That on that day of the collision, you were not engaging in any kind of risky behavior, especially
Correct.
because your kids were there.
I was not engaging in any risky behavior.
Okay, but also, and I think your counsel made mention of this in opening, that especially because your children were there.
I don't recall him saying that.
All right, well, did your children being there make it so that you especially would not engage in risky behavior?
I didn't engage in risky behavior. I wouldn't with my children there or without my children there.
Okay. And kind of in life, I mean, I'm a mom, right? I've got a couple kids, actually about your age, one of them, not your age, your daughter's age. Sorry, I'm not that old. When my kids are around, I kind of behave myself a little bit better, especially when they were younger, than on average. Would you agree with that?
I've always been very open and honest with my kids, and I think, you know, they know me very well.
Right. And would you agree that you have engaged in risky behavior with your children present?
All right, Janine, what are your thoughts about Gwyneth here on the stand?
First of all, I was a little surprised because I was thinking I was going to get a liar up here and the pants were going to like burst up into flames today because of the opposing witnesses. And I'm going to tell you, I believe that she thinks she's telling the truth. I think you found the only clip where she's actually likable on the stand. Smiling and laughing and having some rapport, you know, like the TV screen almost broke when the smile came out here. I think they have great rapport. She blinks a lot here, and this is indicative anyway with someone in court, increase in stress and anxiety. The average blink rate is about 15 to 16 blinks per minute.
So you're seeing stress. You're seeing stress despite the fact that she's coming off to us, not reading those clues, as very poised and composed here.
She is. She's coming across poised, composed, likable. She smiles. When she smiles, it makes us smile, makes us like her. I don't find her a likable person in general, but you found the only clip, I think. This interaction and this score is really, really great. And the stress is through the roof here. By the way, I spoke about this last night, Vinnie, is her lips disappear quite a bit. But here's the deal. Today I went back and looked at a lot of interviews, painfully looked at a lot of interviews with her, and this is part of her baseline, those lips disappearing. So I watched an interview with CBS Good Morning, and again, same thing, just talking about her goop world, those lips disappear. So that's part of her baseline. So I'm going to throw that out with regard to stress. But this increase in eye blink, indicative in the courtroom, certainly stress is happening. One last thing, her eye contact is great. It indicates a high status. Low status people will give eye contact when listening, but will tend to break eye contact when speaking. High status people give eye contact both when speaking and both with listening. And so she's coming in right here saying, I'm a high status person.
Dr. Robi, what's your initial reaction to what we saw today from Gwyneth Paltrow?
I think I was really struck by how uncomfortable the lawyer seemed while questioning her. It was clear that the lawyer was nervous and felt a bit intimidated, and that Gwyneth is a bit imperious and very icy, and she knows when people are anxious in her presence, and she doesn't save them. She just kind of lets them drown in her presence, and maybe that has a lot to do with her being high status in her mind. But I agree with everything that's been stated, that she appears annoyed. She is telling her truth, and that I think we're seeing who Gwyneth is. I think she is a bit of a removed person. She is cold. She is irritable. She probably doesn't like too many people. And so in that regard, we're getting a hint and insight into how she relates to others.
Well, I think she does like Taylor Swift, though, because there was a reference to a gift that she got for Taylor, but I don't know what it is. It was never, ever revealed. All right, everyone's going to stay with us. We're going to play a lot more testimony, get more insight. Big day here on Court TV. Gwyneth Paltrow takes the stand in her ski crash trial. We'll bring you all the big moments. What a moment inside the courtroom. That was it. You know, talking about that moment of the collision. Let me bring back in my guests, Caitlin Becker, Janine Driver, Dr. Robi Ludwig. Caitlin, to me, this is what it's all about. You know, the whole thing of her describing what's going through her mind kind of almost ties into a little bit of her history, right? She was like tied up with Harvey, not tied up, but I mean connected to Harvey Weinstein in her career. So I could see how the sexual assault might come to mind.
She absolutely was, Vinnie. Harvey Weinstein never sexually assaulted Gwyneth, but he did sexually harass her. He, very early on in her career, before she did Emma, put his sort of hands on her and suggested she go up to his hotel room, and she rebuffed him, told Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt went and confronted him, and Gwyneth was actually instrumental in getting together all of the women who ultimately came together for the Me Too movement against Harvey Weinstein. And you have to remember, this is a celebrity. People typically are after them, unfortunately, in one way or the other. As you heard earlier, she's dealt with a stalker during her career more than once. So when all of a sudden you're approached by a physical body, and as you saw her explain, her knees were spread apart, her mind's going a mile a minute trying to figure out what is going on, and then all of a sudden you have the impact where the two of them come tumbling down. Of course she's trying to figure out what in the world is happening.
Dr. Robi Ludwig, does that make sense?
Oh, it makes absolute sense. And I thought it was a very interesting piece of information where we really get insight into how Gwyneth Paltrow thinks and a little bit about her vulnerability. That is her first go-to. We can understand why, as a celebrity, you are a bit more at risk. And then it took her time to figure out what happened. And it sounds like it was a very confusing and threatening and potentially dangerous moment for her.
You're in New York, aren't you, Dr. Robi? I can hear it.
I know, you can hear.
That is New York City. All right, Janine Driver, I have monitors in here, so while we're playing Gwyneth Paltrow testifying, I can see you, and you were like busy. What did you see in that part of her testimony?
A lot's happening here. First of all, let's talk about statement analysis, Vinnie, and you at home. He kind of gently skied behind me, okay? I don't like kinda. You know, with Johnny Depp's ex-wife there, Amber Heard, I said, she did a lot of kinda. He kinda did this, he kinda did. I say when there's a like or a kinda, there's more to finda. There's more to the story. And keep in mind, this is 2016, so it makes sense, okay? So it's not a hot spot for me. Skied behind me, past tense. He was behind me, past tense. This is really great because what we have with the plaintiff's witnesses are telling as if the story is happening right now. He's not using past tense, which is a little bit of an anomaly. In these situations, we want to see and hear past tense. The hot spot, though, for me that makes her a little less believable, I do believe she believes she's telling the truth. Now, whether this really happened or not, who knows at this point. But here's the problem. Remember Jussie Smollett, that guy, that peach out of Chicago that staged a hate crime? Remember him? He's a real peach. We don't have enough hate in the world. When he would tell his story, right, he never looked her behind. He didn't say, this guy came and said this to me and then punched me in the back. when we are reliving stories, especially stories that happened a while ago, we will often use the gestures where we're turning around, and we're not seeing that here with Gwyneth. I would have preferred her to be like, he came up from behind me and you know, punched my back. And we're not seeing that. And so maybe she's just, like we've heard here earlier, just so irritated that she's here, that she's not really getting into it. But truthful people will go back in. Look at people who are attacked by lions or bears. Years earlier, they'll talk about how they were running and then the bear scratched them, and you'll see these movements. We don't see that here. What we do see, though, with Gwyneth is she says their heads collided and their heads were uphill. This is interesting to me, Vinnie, because why? Who cares if they're uphill or downhill? She could have just said, well, I don't really remember that part. No, she stuck to her guns. No, our heads were uphill because she stuck to her guns here, and because she's telling us she thought that maybe someone was attacking her, makes me believe her even more. I believe her. I wasn't coming in as
I know
with a lot of hope.
Skeptical.
I wasn't coming
You're
in.
skeptical. All right, our guests are staying with us. More testimony, more analysis. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Gwyneth Paltrow on the stand today, but one of the most dramatic moments actually took place when she was not on the stand, but there were some arguments by the lawyers. So the plaintiff's attorney making an argument about, you know, what she had said before, what Gwyneth had said before, and during this argument refers to her as lying under oath. So I'm going to play that clip for you. On the screen to the right side, you can see Gwyneth Paltrow and her attorney at that moment, and then things get even more dramatic. Take a look.
What about prior inconsistent statements, Your Honor? I'm entitled to ask her if she's testified that she's lied under oath a number of times, and I want to be able
Your Honor,
to show the jury that
slanderous, and I want it withdrawn this moment.
Well,
she has testified
just a moment.
inconsistent.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
not gonna sit
Well,
here.
counsel, I'm talking, okay? Have a seat. Have a seat. Okay, with the statement that you just made, do you want to rephrase that?
Yes, absolutely. She has made prior inconsistent statements. During her deposition, Ms. Paltrow was asked a number of times, 3, 4, 5 times.
That may be on this issue. That
Yes.
may be, but to me, without some witness tying it into the essential elements of this case, or the essential issues in this case, I see it as collateral impeachment. So,
Even the fact that Mr. Ramon has testified that she skied into Mr. Sanderson, as in she is also walking into walls, etc.
the ruling was, my understanding was that the plaintiff was not going to inquire into the areas covered by the motions, which included that the previous unrelated injuries or other instances of conduct. So I'm going to stand by my ruling. I haven't revisited it. I think it's a good ruling. So.
And I'd like an apology, Your Honor.
There was, and I am sorry, all I'm saying, there were inconsistent statements. I am not trying to slander Ms. Paltrow nor say that she's lying by any which way, form.
We accept. Thank you. My client says she accepts that.
Okay. Thank you.
Whew, how about that moment? Some fireworks. Let's bring back in our guests, Caitlin Becker, Janine Driver, Dr. Robi Ludwig. Janine, I'll give you first crack at this one.
Oh my God. There's a lot happening right here. She's pretty combative. I think that's a big stretch to just flat out say she's lying. And here's the deal about truthful people, especially something that happened in 2016. Details can kind of change a little bit. And even you heard Ben Chu earlier, you had in the segment saying, hey, if elements of the truth, if parts of the story change, just own it, that parts of the story change. And that's just a reality that things do change. As a matter of fact, I have a relative that's a battered woman survivor, and her story slightly changed from when things first happened and who she called, because what we know is we remember more details actually as time goes on. And at the same time, you can be influenced by other witnesses. Other witnesses can say something, and all of a sudden, we know, on my background's law enforcement, the number one reason we have people right now who are innocent in jail are witnesses. Bad witnesses are putting innocent people in jail. So stories do change. We get more information. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think she's making a big deal.
Dr. Robi Ludwig, what do you think of the reaction to Gwyneth Paltrow? I mean, her jaw like literally drops at the moment that she's accused of lying under oath.
Yeah, I mean, I wondered if the attorney was doing that for the jury, so that they would have that resonating in their mind.
Jury's not in the courtroom at that moment.
Oh, they're not? Oh,
Not
okay.
there.
And
Legal argument.
And see, this is what happens when you don't go to law school. Yeah, I think this attorney was saying it as she saw it, and she was kind of speaking in an unedited way. I don't know if this is how she really sees Gwyneth Paltrow, or this was her way to put Gwyneth in her place. We don't know the female dynamics that were going on in the courtroom, but we could certainly see the lawyer, when she had a voice, say some pretty strong statements.
Yeah, Caitlin, we were seeing a lot of some laughable moments between the attorney and Gwyneth Paltrow, but this was not one of those moments.
I feel like any kind of good rapport that had been built up between the plaintiff's attorney and Gwyneth Paltrow is completely erased with this moment right here. What we didn't see before the clip was it sounded like she was very much losing her argument to the judge. And so she pulled out this ridiculous statement to kind of make a point, and then went ahead and accused Gwyneth Paltrow of a crime. I mean, we have to call it what it is. If you're lying under oath, you're committing perjury. So she accuses the defendant of committing a crime in the middle of arguing this objection. It was shocking to me. My jaw was on the floor right there with Gwyneth. You could see all of her attorneys were shocked. The people in the back were shocked. It was wild. And then for her to quickly backpedal and say, I wasn't saying you were lying. You literally said just that. And it's funny when the lawyers make those mistakes and they step over themselves, but when someone who's on the witness stand says, oh, well, I said that, but I kind of meant this, or I sort of changed my mind, they pounce on that. So it's very interesting to see from my journalistic perspective, because I don't see it from sort of the legal perspective. And so that was a moment I did not have on my bingo card, Vinny.
Go ahead, Janine. I'll give you the final word here. We've have about a minute.
Right there, you saw Gwyneth Paltrow in like combat booth or something, but her feet are outstretched. And I think this is interesting. We don't often get to look at someone's feet. And if the jury, depends on where they're sitting, if during the trial, I just want to point out some foot fodder here, that when we see the feet outstretched like that, Vinny, these are people that tend to be telling the truth. So we'll see them taking up space. When someone's feet suddenly go underneath their chair, these are the people that are holding something back. In law enforcement interviews, as soon as those feet came underneath, sometimes even locking among the chair legs, these are people that are constraining and holding something back. Here, Gwyneth puts her legs out in these boots that she's wearing and then crosses her ankles outstretched in front of her. It's as if she's saying, my attorney's got me, sister. Don't you worry, I got the best in the business. Although her mouth may have dropped for a second, seconds later, when her attorney's got it, she stretches back out with those combat boots and relaxes.
And she got the apology, like that. What a great job tonight. Caitlin Becker, thank you so much. DailyMail.com senior reporter, Janine Driver, body language expert, and Dr. Robi Ludwig, host of Talking Live, bite-sized podcast. Thank you all so much. I'm sure we're going to need your help again. Don't be a stranger next week.